Why is online dating so exhausting to almost everyone who uses it? Story 1, I've had Bumble for a couple months. I match with a girl, we talk for a little bit, and it's hard trying to meet them in person or they just flat out don't respond. Went to a wine bar on Saturday night and the cute bartender asked me out. I'm going to teach her how to golf. I'm done with trying to online date LOL. Story 2, oftentimes it's exhausting because we probably don't get the results that we want and not sincere. Online is as shallow as it gets. You like or match based off their profile or how they look. Then you going back and forth trying to entertain each other in hopes of a cutely meeting. It's too many games being played. Keep this in mind, the attraction is lost just as quickly as it was gained. I mean, if she don't text back fast enough, block, or if he does something that gave you the ick, block. Story 3, because it commodifies what should be among the most beautiful and exciting life-affirming experiences, falling in love and forming a deep connection, and replaces it with shopping on Amazon for a partner. Like so many of the convenience traps of modern life, dating apps manipulate our mental weaknesses as a species in order to erode our transcendental soul, hoping to come in there and fill the void with a mindless scroll or swipe for the low price of $9.99 mo. Story 4. I very clearly stated in my bio that I'm not interested in casual flings or one-nighters. Also, reasonable requests, etc. Also, when I spoke to the guys in DMs, I made sure we were on the same page before we meet. Every time they tried to drag me to bed on the first or second date, nah, I won't be using dating apps again, it's all about F-King, LOL. A few means business, and are looking for an actual partner/friend/SO. Story 5. The problem is a catch-22. People don't meet organically anymore because I believe mostly women are tired of dating that they are too exhausted to put themselves out there IRL. In my experience, at least. So they rely on dating apps and dislike the shallow nature of its design. They're too tired to make opportunities IRL and tired of the apps overall. The great majority of women I've met via apps just do not put themselves out there. They go to work, go home, and if they do go out, they just hang out with friends at private residences. In today's economy, it's cheaper to do so. I go to meetups and social events, but it's all men. Women do not go to these events in any capacity in my experience to be a reliable means for finding a partner. Most eligible women are of course paired up by now. Any eligible women who are single don't have to really make much of an outward effort to meet anyone because she likely gets a lot of men approaching her when she's just living her default life day to day. My married sister gets hit on at the grocery store. I've asked out waitresses before and that's gone about as well as you'd think. I work from home. But even when I was in the office, the average employee was 20 years older than me. Even if asking out a coworker was a good idea, my company had terrible demographics for it. I volunteer at an animal shelter. I've done rec sports leagues. I go to conventions, Ren fairs. No one is eligible. They're either not attractive to me, not a good fit for me, the wrong age, too young, too old, or they're not single. Obviously, the gym is absolutely social taboo for a man to approach anyone, so that's out the window. I scope out the bars in my local towns, and the only women who go are with their SO. Third spaces barely exist anymore outside of the most popular of cities that are too expensive to live in for many people. I lived in Boston, which was great for dating. It's where I met my ex, but I could no longer afford it. Rent shot up faster than my own wage, and that was after a promotion. Truthfully, online dating is the only avenue for increasing your odds of finding *eligible people in a reasonable time frame. It's simply where single people who want to mingle go, IRL. No one's available in my experience, or at the very least you don't know who's available. Of all the women I've dated, I looked back and realized with the exception of one, I would have never met any of them organically. My most recent exie worked at a hospital. After work, she'd go home and stay there. She was a homebody. She was incredibly eligible at the time, obviously, which is why we dated for so long. But without an app, there was no way to discover her. The current girl I've started to see, she's a PhD student who's got a tight schedule. She goes to work, then heads home to do schoolwork. How again was I supposed to met someone like her organically? Story 6. I'll give you all a secret. The very best thing you can do is stop bullshitting. I met my wife online 15 years ago. We were both 40 and divorced, so knew what we wanted. I tried online dating for about a year with no results. What am I doing wrong? I asked myself. So, out of curiously, I pretended I was a woman and searched all the ads placed by men. And I was amazed at what I found. Every single ad posted by a man was exactly the same. Literally every single man was handsome, successful, fit, sensitive, chops down trees on the weekends, and loves candlelight dinners and walks on the beach. It was like every single man thought, what do women want? And then described himself that way. So, I knew to get any attention I needed to do the opposite. I wrote a totally new ad and described myself as a moody, headache-prone, highly flatulent insomniac. Literal truth. Not making this up. Within a week, my inbox filled up. My future wife said it was the only ad she ever answered. We chatted for a week, then met in person, and we were engaged a month later. Story 7. Kinda disappointed by the replies here, but the reality is that many or too many people simply lack people skills, and therefore getting from start to finish is a frustrating experience. A big portion of the people on the apps are A. Not using it seriously or just don't have the time for it. B. Don't know how to interact with others or are afraid of meeting others, and the app is the path of least resistance for them, although it isn't clearly helping them much. Or last but not least, C. They want to interact with others on the apps but get too scared to meet people on them. Story 8. Because people all have a list of 10 other people they're matched to, so each time they go on a date, their tolerance for that person is so low because they think they're easily replaceable with the other 10 in the list. You do one wrong thing, that's it. Date's over. Same for them. This pattern continues and everyone stays single because they're accustomed to unreasonable standards and are unable to put in the time to make things work. I had like 3 bad dates with my wife when we met, but we kept trying because we knew we were both nervous. So if by today's standards we would never have gotten to date 4, but here we are 10 years later. Story 9. In the past, we often met people who moved in similar circles. We had mutual connections. These connections held people accountable for their behavior, so if someone disrespected or mistreated you, mutual friends would be involved in making them feel responsible. The anonymity of online dating frees people from that accountability, and so they often are less than stellar in terms of respect and appropriate behavior. In a way, people are just profiles, not real people. Second, online opens you up to a lot of weirdos and psychopaths. Third, there's the FOMO element, fear of missing out. With so many options right there on your phone, people may doubt the one they're with is the best they can do. What if someone is better? What if they're right there, and I miss out on them because I'm with this person? Similar to psychopaths, there is also an element of crime involved or potential. Scammers mostly these days, especially crypto and romance scams. See pig slaughtering scams. Additionally, there is a risk of violence. Sexual assaults. Story 10. Match Inc. owns most online dating sites and apps, and there are only 1 or 2 others in the business. They are all scammers. Years ago, hackers revealed that most profiles are fakes created by the companies themselves, including 95% of women's profiles. Otherwise, the member databases would be as empty as a Monty Python cheese shop. This is why you can't reliably communicate with other members. Most of them aren't real. And keep in mind that if 2 members do hit it off, the company loses 2 customers. So it's in their best interest to discourage that. Story 11. The older you get, the worse it gets. It's eventually like gym class back in the day when you are among the last people getting picked. I'm generalizing, of course, but I'm 38 and the people around my age on the various apps, myself included, fall into one of several categories. 1. Significant baggage, kids, etc. 2. Unattractive and/or overweight. Or 3. Socially awkward, which you often can't tell from a profile along, but only upon meeting. Even when you do start connecting with someone, in my experience, women are likely carrying on many conversations at once, which can lead to ghosting/conversations randomly ending. As a general rule, if someone I'm chatting with can't commit to meet within several days of matching, I just resign myself to it going nowhere and end any communication myself. Nobody's fault. It's just part of the low commitment that comes with online dating these days. Story 12. I think it's that the girls have too many matches, and the guys have basically none. Like, when I sold my car on Facebook, I was inundated. I couldn't keep up with all the different offers. I finally just sold it to someone to end the madness. A few people were butthurt, but screw them. So in the extremely rare case a guy gets a match, and the even more rare case where he gets more than 2 responses, the girl has 1,000 others she's sifting through. And depending where you fall on the scale, there's XX% better looking dudes, and you'll be ghosted. I recently deleted the apps, but my job is boring, so I might get them again and start catfishing just to muddy the waters. Story 13. Online dating doesn't work for most people. Most online dating sites have been bought up by a monopoly who proceeded to tweak and monetize platforms that sorta worked until they no longer function. and then buy up and do the same thing to all competing sites. The fatal flaw of online dating is how people filter out potential matches online versus IRL. Basically, IRL, most people use a different order of filters to make value judgments about a potential date. Looks, body language, personality, fashion, etc. Online, the first filter is looks. If one doesn't get past this filter, the other attributes never get a chance to shine. Throw in the difficulty of assessing personality over text, and you have a bunch of people making dating decisions through an app that are completely different from the decisions they would make in person. When those decisions don't work, they double down, try a new app with the same basic flaw, or just give up entirely. They straight up are designed, whether flaw or feature, to not work. Story 14. All the women chase after the players and catfish, get burnt, end up bitter and jaded. All the men chase after the most desirable women. It goes to their heads, and they think they deserve a 10 with all boxes ticked, just because 1005s messaged them. So the pretty women end up played or with unrealistic expectations, unicorn chasers, and the other 95% of the women end up played, catfished, and ghosted by the top 5% of men playing the field. And so 95% of the men end up angry and bitter than they are genuinely trying hard to get an actual date and not getting anything. Because all the women are crying about how guys are all liars, cheats, players, and fakes. Because that's who they are chasing. It's a vicious cycle, caused by the illusion of choice that having so many potential partners in front of you creates, when in reality, most of them are out of your league. Story 15. Online dating intentionally reproduces market logic because dating apps are owned by profit-driven companies. It's part of a approximately 50-year-long reorganization of society into a free market system that pervades all aspects of life, dating included. That's the long and short of it. Remember, the goal of the app is not to create a pleasant, successful dating experience for its users. The goal is to get as many people as possible using the app as often as possible. In fact, they are in part incentivized to make it so that people do not find a serviceable long-term match, assuming here a heteronormative conception of relationships as monogamous couples, because that would mean people stop using the app. Story 16. Because people behave online differently than they would in person. You wouldn't walk up to a woman and just say hi, but you say hi to 200 women, then complain for months that no one ever responds to you. What is there to respond to? In real life, you give your name and state your intentions. Just because online is more casual, people forget about manners and the purpose of looking for human connection. It's all numbers and holding out for the best option, which is gross. I abstain. Story 17. It's a terrible system that is designed against you, all to make money. If you hear stories of the good old times, that's because there was less monetization involved. The swipe culture has gone out of control and only in the hands of the fairer sex. It preys on the gambling nature, and that's what drains you. Not to mention, even if you make a match, ghosting is becoming the norm. I've forgotten how terrible it was, and I do not care to do it anymore. Focus on making friends and expanding the circle, and the romance will find you. Story 18. It's as simple, supply and demand. Men have to date down because there are a lot more guys swiping. These guys don't want to settle for less than they could get in a real life, so they churn through these matches. Women, due to the supply of men being so much higher, are matching with guys above their leagues, and they are getting burned. The 9S and 10S they match with don't want to settle for them. At the end of the say, everyone gets burned and jaded. Dating works much better in real life, where supply and demand is close to 50-50ths. Story 19. Isn't it ironic we have all these devices and interfaces to bring us closer together? But in reality, we've never been further apart. We are a nation of consumers. We view potential partners as commodities. We look, we don't like, and we swipe to see what is next. We immediately expect a finished product to suit all our needs and discard it immediately after it doesn't. It is all really so sad. Story 20. Because it's designed to be this way. For example, Tinder is designed to make you match with the maximum number of people and show you the newest messages first. If you're a woman, you'll likely get a ton of matches that pile on top of any genuine conversations and make it hard to find them. Tinder doesn't want you to meet someone and have a relationship. Tinder wants you to keep swiping so they can keep making money on ads and subscriptions. I've used Tinder most, and several others here and there, and I think of it as a hell app. I feel like I'm drowning in guys who want my attention and get mad when they don't get it. I feel bad for everyone involved because Tinder puts us in this situation, and half the modern dating apps are modeled after Tinder. Story 21, it's the introductory gatekeeping. In the real world, dating is predicated by knowing something about the person, or spontaneous in-person number exchanging, with the nonverbal in-person communication. Online, you have tons of other options. You have no idea if this person is them, or if you will vibe. As both parties are competing for other prospects' time, it's not a natural way to meet people. Story 22. Interesting. I met my wife on Bumble. I never personally had a problem with it, and honestly, I only ever saw it as a way to make friends and maybe get lucky and meet someone. The ghosting and dropped connections were annoying, sure, but I didn't hold it against anyone or let it affect my self-esteem much. That's my perspective. I think many want to use online dating apps to find their person, which puts a lot more pressure on the initial meetup than there needs to be. Story 23. I think it has more to do with people not properly vetting who they give their time and attention to off of the apps. I met my husband on Coffee Meets Bagel 6 years ago. I didn't expect to find a spouse in an app, but at the same time was very selective about who I gave my attention to. He was actually the only date I accepted. Been married 5 years and he is by far the best husband. Dating apps do have an AI advantage in that they pair people based on an algorithm. Doesn't account for personality but can for big categories of value sets. Story 24. It's discouraging as a guy, because it feels like looking down a well that's too dark to see the bottom, and convincing yourself there's some water left even though the bucket always comes back empty. While it's discouraging for women because they get hit on by so much douchebags that finding someone decent to talk to who's not just trying to sleep with them is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Story 25. I met my wife online 15 years ago, so I have some experience, but not recent. From what I can tell, typical current online dating is completely wrong. All this swiping baloney where you look at one picture and decide, that's idiotic. And people pointlessly messaging each other, what's up? Not much. What's up with you? OMG, of course it's a dead end. To find someone online, you need to be serious and honest and open. You need to describe yourself very honestly, and you need to have realistic expectations. You need to look for someone with common interests, common values, common goals. You need to have real conversations. Story 26. Yay, online dating sucks so much. The sheer amount of hey I got off of Bumble just to attempt to get a decent conversion rolling was painful on Bumble. And Tinder has only been about hookups, so it's nearly impossible to find something that will last longer than a week. I've not tried other apps, but since I'm admittedly short, 5'4", I have nearly no success online. In person, I've had great success. It's the only times I've found shared interests and engaging conversions. Story 27 depends on how and why someone is using it. If you are putting effort into it but keep matching with the wrong people that don't put forth the effort, or you are not being realistic, then that will end in a bad time. Read between the lines. Are they wanting a hookup or a relationship? Don't try and date out of your league. You won't have a good time. Realize many people are flooded with options. You have to stand out or get lost in the crowd. Story 28. The online dating app experiment was a flop for me. Too much energy with too little return. All of the problems everyone else mentioned happened to me. Let's all stop using them. They'll go out of business or be forced to change. Instead, they could match you with someone in your area, give you discounts on local venues, and suggest places to meet up. A boost for the app, the local economy, and possibly a connection. No more texting and ghosting. Go on a date or forget about it. Story 29. Because it's based mostly, there's always someone better than this seemingly good match mentality. It also takes away that something needed in a genuine in-person connection. I've met people in person that on a dating app I would have swiped left on, but in person they would say or do something that made them instantly much more attractive. And I've introduced one to a chronically on dating app friend of mine, who's now in a happy relationship with the man I introduced her to, who she never would have swiped right on a dating app. Story 30. Because it's unnatural. Look up how the natural partner selection works. After 500 ms, the male and female brain decides if they feel attracted to the optics. 5 seconds of voice samples are enough to decide if the sound of the voice feels attractive. After the first touch, both start producing pheromones which they both inhale to check if the immune systems are compatible. If it is, the first batch of endorphin is injected into both partners, which let them both forget that they don't like some negative but evolutionary unrelevant attributes. So basically, in the time where the online date exchanges an awkward, hey, how are you? The real-life couple is basically already having sexy time in their heads, and especially for women, the smell, sound, and overall feel of the male is insanely important, while males' OFC check mostly with the eyes. So for women are basically not attractable by pictures and text, so they basically have to decide to love with their heads until they meet. Story 31. For me, it's the fact that Hinge makes you pay $1.99 plus to buy roses so you can like the hot girls. They literally make you pay for the best-looking women, to have even a 0.000001% shot at them saying hi and nothing else. If you don't pay, the likes usually don't come. I've probably spent $600 on these shit apps and I'm so jaded. And sometimes I think, people don't really need one another anymore. What's the point? Connection? Really? Have you fucking dated someone for more than a year? It's almost a job. Dating as a man in his late 20s leaves me exhausted. I don't even like drinking and dancing, but I can't do one without the other. Tired of killing myself with alcohol. I'd rather just lay on the beach or work out, or literally anything else. I saw a really hot girl at the beach and she was really into me, I thought. And she seemed really nice and cool. But then I got depressed because I realized how fucking drunk she was. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do with you? I had to literally get her back to her friends because she was drunk. Why the fuck would dating app companies want us to be in relationships? They wouldn't exist for long. I'm honestly convinced they probably do weird eugenics shit with data models in these secret company backrooms. Looking at Match, who owns almost all the major dating apps? They probably sell the fuck out of our personal lives. Story 32. It was designed to be. So you spend money swiping endlessly and never find one person to settle with. It's the only way to keep an active paying user base. Those apps are designed to give you an illusion of unlimited choice, like there's someone better for you there, just around the corner. Always dangling a carrot to create an illusion that there's something better than whatever your current situation in. Thing is that they do whatever they can to never give you the carrot, because that'd mean 2 lost customers/users/carrots. Potentially interesting story. When one of the big platforms was starting, I had a friend who was on their whisper marketing campaign. It was enormous. Think thousands of people tasked to rant to their friends how it's the way to meet people to date now. They all had all the bells and whistle features paid for to use and show the benefits of those features. She would have to rant about the app and show her successes to her friends, regardless if single or coupled or married, and never tell anyone that it was part of a paid campaign. All the other people on the campaign did the same, and it was a huge success.